This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
What we're going to talk about today supports all of us, but we're going to focus today on those who challenge themselves sometimes a little bit more than the rest of us. And by that, I'm talking about somebody who may perform. Maybe you're a singer. Maybe you do dance. Maybe you're into sports, martial arts, whatever it might be. Maybe you could be a life coach that delivers your message in front of a lot of people. All of these things can inherently give you tension, can give you some stress, and sometimes that can be the block. That can stop you right there from getting to where you want to, performing the way you want to. It's called the Alexander Technique. It's been around for 150 years and still supports so many. I'm serious. Every time I met him, and he's the expert on this technique, I'm hearing it come up in all different times in conversation. I'm like literally minimum 3 times a week, randomly outside of this podcast. Let's dig in. He's a neuro, muscular, and rehab specialist, and this has moved his life forward here. Professional of the Year, it is Travis Chastain on the program. How are you doing today?
Steve, I'm great. It's good to see you again, my friend.
You too. You too. And this interestingly started for somebody who was a performer 150 years ago, FM Alexander. And maybe we should do a quick recap on what happened to him and why he found this technique.
Yeah, well, FM Alexander was an actor who became a bit of a victim of his own success, like a lot of us do, right? He was going from being an amateur actor, doing one performance a month kind of deal in smaller venues, to suddenly doing 4, 5, and much bigger venues that required a much louder projection of his voice, right? So he was out there having to really, really enunciate. This is before, amplification was around. So it was all on you. It was all on your technique and what kind of energies that you were bringing to the table, right? And so for him, there developed this hoarseness that he was feeling in his throat. And a hoarseness that came so bad that it caused him to chronically lose his voice over and over and over again. And what he discovered was that the reason that this was happening to him was he was carrying a lot of tensions and misusing his body in very particular ways, trapping energies in his body, right? That was kind of preventing him from the excellence that he knew he could have. Not only was it preventing him from having the excellence he knew he could have, it was preventing him from just simply being able to get through his day, right? Get through his performance without falling apart, right? And so, he came up with a whole method to get in touch, get into connection with the tensions that he was carrying, detach himself a little bit from this outcome and that outcome, so he wasn't getting so tight, holding on to what he desired, but just allowing himself to be in the moment. And really what it came down to was that, just learning to detach from, what he thought that he needed to discover what he really needed in the moment. And, change his head, neck, and back posture and the position and its relationship over time for itself. And before you know it, he never had a problem again.
I can't imagine that in that time, 150 years ago, you have to perform. So you have to remember your lines. You, as an actor, you have a certain persona you're putting on or whatever you're trying to deliver. Now you have to do it night after night so they can hear you in the back row. So now you have to make sure that you're projecting, and that I can't imagine the stress that comes from that.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're being held back in some way that you don't know.
Right.
All right. And that's what he was feeling. day in and day out, kind of held back for reasons he didn't know. And he had to figure it out.
Mm.
He had to get scientific about it. Stare at a bunch of mirrors and figure it out and see what was going on. And what he found out was not only a method to help actors be better at acting without running into all the roadblocks that actors can run into, but what he developed was a science of how the human organism coordinates itself in activity well, and vice versa. What it looks like when we're not organizing ourselves well, and giving ourselves the best opportunity in this moment or that moment with whatever you're doing to let your most authentic self show up in the moment.
Is that how he did it using mirrors?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, he just stood in front of a bunch of mirrors and he noticed very particular patterns of tension that initiated when he decided to recite some Shakespeare.
Mm.
Very particular patterns that initiated to a lesser degree when he decided to speak. Very particular patterns that initiated the minute he decided to sit and stand, right? What he discovered was that habits, they don't localize. Like how you use yourself in one thing is how you're going to use yourself in all things. And if you can learn how to use yourself well in the act of walking, you can learn how to use yourself well in the act of reciting or the act of playing the classical guitar, the act of doing that big speech that's going to make or break your career kind of deal, right? You know, learning how to bring the very best coordination within yourself at that moment.
Mm. Give him a lot of credit for back then identifying. I mean, photography was just starting to blossom, if that. To have the foresight to think that, oh, I got to look at these different mirrors. How am I holding myself? Where am I holding that tension? What could be preventing me from projecting?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and beyond that, like finding out that no matter how hard he tried to fix the shape of himself,
Mm-hmm.
it just got him more bent out of shape, you know?
Anxiety. And so, yeah,
Yeah, I
performance
mean,
anxiety too.
yeah, yeah. You know, habits, they run deep, right? You know, they run far deeper than any of us care to think, right? And all it takes is a little response here to trigger them, a little stimulus here to trigger them here, right? And wouldn't it be nice if by becoming aware of them, that there is a simple workaround? Like, even if you feel nervous as all get up, that it doesn't have to impact your coordination, right? Even if you don't feel terribly prepared, well, you know, you can just free your neck up and see how it goes.
How does this apply to others who want to call it perform the best they can? Let's say it's somebody who's into dance. Let's say somebody's a musician, as you are. Let's say
Yeah,
it's somebody who does sports, maybe martial arts, whatever it might be. How does this translate? Because not every one of us can relate to um, theater and projecting.
right, right. Yeah. Well, you see, I got my skeleton here to show you. Right. So, as I was mentioning, what FM was stumbling onto wasn't a method of helping actors. It was a method of helping human beings, right? And what he discovered was is that all human beings organize themselves optimally in a particular way. In order for a human being to be functioning optimally, the neck has to be really, really free up here, really easy. The head has to be nice and well balanced, not too far pulled back, not too far pulled forward, right? Has to be nice and balanced on top. It has to be leading the motion in an upward direction. and the back needs to be flowing up and out in expansion. Those are the conditions by which a human being functions perfectly, right? And so, if you're a dancer and you're wanting to do something beautiful and graceful, the Alexander technique helps you by asking you, well, when you did that movement, what kind of tensions did you bring in your neck in that act, for example? What were you thinking about when you did that activity? Oh, were you thinking about the movement? Let's see if we can think a little bit about leaving this neck alone. Let's see if we can think about where the head leads optimally. And let's just see how that changes your movements. Right? That's how we could help a dancer, for example. In other words, getting into connection with what might be unnecessary about how we did that movement, right? What might be in that movement that, well, that took away from the natural genius that's there a little bit. And then in a lesson, we would just explore that. We'd explore how can you let go of that when you're maybe shooting a free throw?
Mm.
How can you let go of that when you're weightlifting? The activities change, but how you as a two-legged vertebrate organizes your body well doesn't. So how can we teach you to become aware of what doesn't need to be there in the activity? What doesn't need to be up here in the neck, for example, when we're doing that activity? What doesn't need to be present in your thinking about that activity? Right? That we can be really present about letting ourselves just move instead of trying to be right about the movement. Instead of trying to get the dance perfectly. Maybe we can just check in with what we're bringing into it that's preventing the natural perfection from automatically showing up.
I have to tell you, when you first said about the skull, the upper part of where
Mm-hmm.
the neck meets the skull, as soon as you said that, I felt tension. I wasn't
Right up
aware
here?
of it. Yes, right there. I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of it until you said it. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I feel
Yeah.
that back there. Oh, wow. Okay. Uh, and I'm imagining that's probably where most people have a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point that you're making too, is that just by highlighting it, we can start to become aware of it, right? And the other thing is, there's a bit of a paradox that goes on when we practice the technique. Yeah, we're noticing these tensions. That's part of being a human being. We meet ourselves where we are. Our use is never perfect, but hey, we can get into connection with it. And let's let's not try to directly fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just let go of all the doing for a second. Right? Let go of all the attempting for a second. Before you immediately do this activity or that activity, let's learn the value of not doing an activity for a little bit.
So within the Alexander technique, let's say let's say others are doing the same thing I did, thinking
Yeah.
about that tension in the back of the neck at the
Mhm.
top of the spine.
Yeah.
How would you release that? By being you got awareness is the the cornerstone of change. So now you're
Yeah.
aware of it. How do you get rid of it?
All falls in this word that we use in the Alexander technique, inhibition. Right? Inhibition means there's this choice, there's this recognition that there's a choice to not do something. Okay, so as you're sitting there, we're having this conversation. What if you just recognize this really weird idea that you don't have to talk to me right now?
Yeah, fine. Have a good day.
But what I mean is that you don't have to you don't have to put a pressure to immediately respond, is
Hmm.
what I'm saying, right? Because that's what FM noticed is that the reason we tighten our neck is that there's this stimuli to an action that we always feel we have to immediately respond to that action, right? That stimuli. And that always drives us into those tension patterns. So the first thing is you have to refuse the stimuli. You have to get in the habit of, instead of saying yes to a stimuli, say no to it.
Give an example.
Okay. Here's a stimuli. Move your right arm. Go ahead and do it. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the stimuli to move your right arm. And now I want you to think no to it for a little bit. Good. Just see if you notice if anything shifted in you when you thought the word no.
Is it impactful for you to ask me to do it so I can think no?
Yeah.
Tell me to do it.
Yeah. Go ahead and move your right arm. Now try to think no while being open. There you go. Just let your eyes be open.
Hmm.
Like we're still able to have a conversation. You're just choosing not to do anything with that stimuli. Yeah. And just think that word no again. So you're getting a foundation of non-reactivity every time you say the word no. Introduce the stimuli again and think no to having to do anything. Okay, now your neck is way up here behind your nose and in between your ears. Okay, I'll give you the stimuli to move your right arm. Now just think no again. Now just think free neck. Without trying to feel it out, without trying to change anything. Think of it like tossing a little ball up into the air as a thought that once it's there, it's gone forever. So even that you're not trying to hold on to. You're just thinking no. Free neck. No to the stimuli. Free neck. No to the stimuli. Free neck. Okay, now move while thinking of your free neck. Go ahead.
Right
Go.
arm?
Yeah, move with conviction as you thought of your free neck. Okay. This time without feeling it, just thinking it. No. Free neck. Now move with conviction. Go. Good. What are you noticing?
Out of the gate, every time I thought no to moving my right arm, I felt a weird pressure right around my bicep, the outside side of my bicep. It was very strange. Every time I said no, I felt bizarre, but I do feel the neck loosened up a little bit.
Okay. So the
Hmm.
neck loosened up and you felt a little tension in your arm.
I don't know why. It's kind of, and I
Mhm.
tried not to get in my head, but every single time I said no to moving my arm and not moving it, I
Yeah.
felt a little just like pressure there, like somebody just taking their hand and putting it on, my the outside of the bicep.
Yeah. So that might be things that are revealing yourself that are there. So then you can expand upon it, right? Because the free neck is only part of it. Then it's where the head needs to go and the whole back to lengthen and widen. So you could think no again. Whatever I'm doing within my whole body that caused that stiffening in my arm, I ask it to let go. Right. So now you're bringing your whole self into the equation. Whatever I'm doing in my whole self that was causing that, I ask it to let go. Now just have a real light thought of your free neck. What are you noticing now?
It feels like there's less pressure. Gotta tell you. And now it's moving, from the top down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're peeling away the onion layers of tension. And so then you can start working with that if you wanted. Oh, I noticed that this was freeing up, and I'm noticing that this is revealing itself. What do I have to let go of holistically for that to let go? Free neck.
Do you feel that when somebody is dealing with pain or some kind of physical challenge, that many times it's not the general area, unless it's, a clear-cut injury to that spot, but just like, let's say, mobility issues or whatever it might be, it's really connected to other areas and other organs and or other tension?
Absolutely. From the Alexander technique perspective, every local injury or challenge that we're facing is a product of too much going on in the entire head, neck, and back relationship. So let's say we have something going on in our shoulder. But in order for something to be going on in the shoulder, there's undue pressures and tensions that are moving in the entirety of this head, neck, and back relationship here. And if we want sustainable change in the shoulders, for example, then we have to get to the root cause, which is the imbalances and the excessive tensions that are going on in this whole relationship here. And so that's why I asked you, whatever I'm doing within my whole self that's causing this local challenge, I asked to let that go. It's a good way of getting in contact with the rest of the body.
All the more reason why this technique is so beneficial, because where we hold tension is in all different areas. We might think it's here or there, but we might think it's localized to what is challenging us, but it's not. There's more going on there. Can you be holding tension in many multiple areas in the body?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're either free in the whole body or we're tight in the whole body.
Okay. Have you ever experienced where you could say, I'm not sensing, because now you're very aware of it, having learned the technique, practice it, and help others, that can you say that I'm not holding any tension anymore? Or on a given day, hey, you know what? Everything's loose today. We're good.
Well, I've maybe gotten that place once or twice in my life. You know what use is, my friend? Use is on a spectrum. Coordination is on a spectrum, right? And, every day we get a little bit better, and then that reveals just something else that we can improve. Every day we get a little bit better, and then there seems to be a revelation that there's something else that can be let go of to make us a little bit better that next time, right? The technique, Nev, doesn't promise perfection of our coordination, but it's a tool it's a tool to get us deeper in connection with our bodies, with our mind, with the mind-body-spirit connection, right? And to let go of things simply. Be curious. Do a movement, see how it goes. What went well about that? And where was the room for progress? And then think about this next attempt. I'd like to let this go or that go holistically. And then you just come back to what allows that. What allows that is just an allowing. Right? And then a light thought of freedom in your neck.
What I've learned here today is we're holding so much tension in our bodies because somebody like you that has mastered this technique to say that, well, maybe a couple of times I felt completely free. Having the knowledge of the technique, you could work to free everything up, but there's so many places that we hold tension, probably, I don't want to say impossible, but nearly, because we've got so many different areas of our body that tension builds up within.
Well, I think a better way of looking at it is that we're a space of almost unlimited potential, Steve. We have nearly unlimited potential. And so when you get a little bit better, the only thing that has happened is it's revealed a little bit more improvement that can be made. That's all. I think it's a better way of thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, we all got pain, cares. That can be transcended fairly easily when we're just thinking, and we're thinking in a particular way. And that's what the technique teaches. It's just to get past all the doing, get past all the striving, get past all the attempting, and just allow the natural genius that's in you to shine. And the natural genius that's in you that shines, it only shines when we get into contact with how we're blocking him or her from shining. And those blocks are always manifest in this word tension that we're talking about, this word undue tension that we're talking about, right? But it's really just a simple shift in how you think. Instead of striving to be right, why not strive to not give a darn about being right? And just think about how you're using yourself in the attempt.
It's a more positive way of looking at it.
And you can focus on it, right? It's a little bit more constructive because right is hard to define. Not, when you're tightening your neck in the action, it's pretty right there for you to work with, right? You can just see it, you can feel it, and you can work with it in the moment. Right is this elusive thing, just like, what does that mean exactly? Well, how about I don't do this one thing that I know not to do and see what happens next.
We're out of time. Final question. Yes or no? Can we be holding tension from things that maybe happened in our childhood, maybe something traumatic that happened 15 years ago? Could you still be holding tension from that now?
There's no doubt that's part of the journey towards integration and alignment, right? And not striving. There's no doubt.
Wow.
And those things will reveal themselves the minute you start letting go of them. No doubt.
That's a good point too there. Many people have done therapy, hypnotherapy, many different modalities to address their past. But once you are aware of where you're holding tension, some of these things may come clear once the tension goes away.
It's a lot simpler way of letting it go too. It's because letting go ultimately at the end of the day is just a choice.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what happened to you in the past. What happens is, are you just going to choose to let go of it or not?
And why do you want to walk around feeling that tension, that discomfort, and things that are holding you back from doing physical activities that you enjoy, whether it's sports, performing, whatever it might be? Taking a hike, you may be like, I can't. I want to go out there. I want to get grounded. I want to be in nature. It's a beautiful day. I just can't. And my shoulder's killing me. Well, imagine if that was gone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it speaks to, I do this forgiveness exercise that comes in relationship to the Alexander technique. I'll just walk and think of the word I forgive and whoever comes up to my mind. And then you just start feeling lighter in your steps.
That's part of the technique?
That's an expansion of the technique.
Wow. That's, as simple as that is, how powerful that is. I mean, the power of forgiveness, it can be life-changing, but just that technique of just walking through your day, I forgive. Let's answer that question. Who do you forgive? What do you forgive? Maybe it's yourself. Wow.
That's always the one that has to be let go of. That way you don't have that heavy weight over you anymore.
Well, there's the point. You could be holding tension because you haven't forgiven somebody or a situation. Not condoning what somebody may have done to you at all, but you have to move forward, and you can't unless you forgive. And I'm guessing if that's where you're holding tension somewhere in your body, challenging to release that tension until you forgive.
I can't remember who said it, but like unforgiveness is drinking a poison every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody else's poison.
Yeah.
Because they already made the poison. They already handed it to you. They're drinking, something delicious and fresh and cold and clear and clean. And here you've got this poison that you're holding on to. Wow. What's your website, Travis? How do we find you?
Yes, my website's www.bodymindbalanceco.com. You can find me on my contact page. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for today. Learned a lot of interesting things that are kind of universal here in terms of forgiveness, but never connected it to the tension that we may be holding. And that's just one piece of this technique. The reason, more reason why it's been around for 150 years.
Absolutely.
For sure. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much, Steve.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.